It was just them knowing that sex was available that made them feel relaxed. That sounds weird, doesn't it?
I know.
It's about a woman feeling sexy. She wants to have sex with you because she feels sexy. When a man is willing to be in his masculine energy,
Hmm.
he doesn't find dealing with a woman as difficult. It builds mystery for us. It's like, ooh, it's mysterious to us and it feels good. That's what women want. That's mystery.
Mary, welcome again to the Vibrant Couple. You and I talked about 4 months ago. It was a wonderful conversation from nice guys to sex god. And so I invited you again to the Vibrant Couple to talk about demystifying feminine sexuality because for too many men, it's too complex or it appears too complex and they gave up.
Right. Yes, I'm right there with you on that. Many of the men that I coach, that's exactly what I hear from them. That it just feels so complicated and it feels off. And I'm using the word feels on purpose because a lot of times I
Yeah.
know men, we like to think of men as just being logical and all these thoughts. And really, this territory we're talking about is feelings. And I think that's where some men they get tripped up. It's because like, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? What is this? And there's no A to B to C to D, right? It's like, oh, we have to flow. I got to flow here, and I don't like this. It's
Exactly.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah, they try to understand in their head and, if, what are the sequences, but last week I did that is not working today. When what she wants is to be felt, she wants to be seen and been with in the moment.
Yeah, it's not a static thing, and men will, not all men, but a lot of men have trouble with that, and then they take it personally. They think, oh, well, it's
Yeah,
because she doesn't love me. She's not interested in
yeah,
me. And that's also a thing, of course, that's going to make you give up, feeling rejected. That's no fun for anybody.
yeah,
But I think
yeah.
that the main thing that I'm the way to put it, that I like to put it and think about it is that when a man is willing to embody his masculine presence, or let me say, and when a man is willing to be in his masculine energy,
Hmm.
he doesn't find dealing with a woman as difficult.
This is very interesting because the clients I work with, when I ask the man what he thinks she's feeling, he's almost always off. When I invite him to be in his body and ask him what he senses, he's almost always right.
Mhm.
It's so interesting. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but when you try to make, especially if you're having a rough patch in your marriage, or if your sex life is just feeling off for all kinds of reasons, right? This just applies across the board. Sex becomes a concept, right? Desire becomes a concept. Sex becomes a problem to solve rather than, oh, this is a shared experience that we're going to have together, right? This is not
Yeah.
something I can think my way out of. It's you got to get out of your head and go into your body. And you know how nice guys love to be in their heads and intellectualize
Yeah.
everything. That's
So you have the very unique experience of course, you're a woman with your own, sexuality. But in addition to that, you were a high-end escort for many years, and you were a madam. And on these two fronts, I'm pretty sure there was, a lot of caring for your clients, but it was also business.
it was business. It was business. It was fun business most of the time. I'll say that. I mean, most of my experiences were extremely positive. Extremely
Hmm.
positive. I look back on that time in my life with a lot of fondness because of the men that I got to meet, the men that I got to spend time with. Because there was a lot of, yes, okay, transactional nature, sure. But it was also about caring, being available to a man in a way that nobody else in his life was.
So what caring did you provide this man?
I saw them, you know, I listened to them. And when I say I saw them, I don't mean I agreed to see them. I mean, when they came into the room, it was about them. When we were together, my focus was them. It wasn't, hey, did you take out the trash? Or what about those bills? Or, oh, that thing with my mom. It wasn't about any of that. It was about me being a woman, him being a man.
So can you say that you were the masculine for their feminine?
Yeah, I was. I actually was. I was. Until and it was interesting because I never thought of it that way, but
Yeah.
it was exactly that. Exactly that because that's what they needed. They needed to be able to relax so they could be replenished and then go, "Oh, wait a minute. This is this feels nice and I don't have this with my wife." But it's not necessarily because something's wrong. It's because I'm not being in my masculine energy for a variety of reasons, right? It's not, you're not to vilify anybody.
So I'm very curious as an escort about what you did to invite them from an empowered feminine to their empowered masculine.
Well, what I did with my clients is not what I do with my husband because when I was seeing clients, my role was this was it was my business. I was in charge of the interaction, meaning I created the structure for our interaction, right? And so it was about where they chose things, right? Like, oh, we're going to go to dinner. They chose where we're going to go. But as far as the flow of the evening, everything was left up to me, right? It was about, I'm like, okay, well, we've been sitting here talking for 2 hours now, and this is a 3 hour appointment. We better head back to the hotel because otherwise we're not going to have sex. Right. And so I was like, and I would just delicately say, hey, let's head back to the hotel. But
So basically, you gave that masculine direction
yes.
in addition to the masculine presence.
Hmm.
And so I fully get it. Did that make men lazy? Because too many men these days get lazy with porn, lazy in their beliefs of what sexuality is, but also lazy into not knowing anymore how to do the work. Because, you know, a real woman, sometimes she's open, sometimes she's not. It's
Hmm.
like on porn where she's always open, or at least she looks like.
Hmm. Right. Well, because that's based on male fantasy, right? And that's why seeing a sex worker is a fantasy, right? It's not, but the interaction is physical, it's intimate, but it's also very superficial, right? There's a superficiality to that because when an escort chooses a client, like I was not choosing them based on, oh, can we have a heart connection here? It wasn't about that at all. And I think that's what made it nice for men too, was because there that expectation wasn't there of, oh, I have to be vulnerable, I have to share myself. It was just like I get to show up and pay for stuff, be pleasant, be showered, be attractive, and by attractive I mean behavior, and then I'm gonna get what I want out of this. And I think that's
So
why it's such a relief. And yeah, it makes people lazy. Sure, of course.
I think it is you who told me that they basically paid you to have no feelings about sex.
Um, I if I said that I didn't say it quite that way, but yeah, yeah, it's it's to yeah just be available. And I didn't always have sex with clients. It was just them knowing that sex was available that made them feel relaxed.
Yeah.
Right? Not like, oh, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Like I say it like that, that kind of grumbly, because that was the vibe of it. Not with me, but when they talked about, their ex-wives, or some of them were married, but towards the end of my career, I only was seeing, just happened to only see divorced men. And that, yeah, I heard a lot of kind of grumbling. Oh, she didn't like this. She didn't like that. Da 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 da. Da. Like they took things personally that I knew was just female sex drive stuff. Right. And just male female stuff. And sometimes I would talk to them about it.
So, a prerequisite to a healthy sex life, if I understand well, from a man's perspective, is to not take it personally with her emotions and her yeses and her nos.
That sounds weird, doesn't it?
I know.
Because and here's what my theory on that is, that because men who do that equate sex with love, right? They think that
Yeah.
sex equals love. And sex doesn't always equal love, right? And so just because your wife, your woman doesn't want to have sex with you doesn't mean she doesn't love you. And it doesn't even mean that she doesn't necessarily want to have sex with you. It's that she's not feeling desire for whatever reason. For the man, I mean, you can only hear that so many times before you start to think there's something wrong with you and wrong with her. So depending on your personality depends on whether you blame her for being difficult or whether you blame yourself for not being good enough.
There is a lot of built up resentment. So,
Mm.
of course, there is a need to address it. And there is also the need to basically create sex conversation. Hey, we both want sex. How we do that? Let's strategize, let's schedule it, which, of course, goes against the, you know, spontaneity. But I believe that spontaneity is, works when you're in honeymoon phase, but not
Okay.
after.
I agree because if you have sex dates in your calendar, that gives everybody something to look forward to. Right? And it also gives it's like the woman knows, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to eat that thing that makes me feel fat and gross because we're having sex tonight. I'm serious. It's
Yeah.
even things like that because if you feel bloated, like that area of our bodies, when it feels bloated, we do not feel sexy at all, or feel like being naked in front of somebody. So I know that that's so tiny and trivial, but it's so real. It's
Oh,
so
I totally
real.
agree.
And it's about a woman feeling sexy. She wants to have sex with you because she feels sexy. If she doesn't feel sexy, then it doesn't matter how much you desire her. It's it's hard for her to take a pause and open herself up.
Yeah, so I'm so in line with you. And so what I'm working on with my clients is empowering him so that he feels sexy and desirable and learn to not ask for permission anymore. And so I want to say here, consent is paramount. So
Yes.
permission and consent are two very different things, but it is learning for permission I'm talking about. And then on her end, she also learns to empower her own sexuality, her own turn on. And so when the two of them meet, it's not just one wanting sex, the other saying no. It's two wanting sex and then playing in the moment to make that happen.
And that was something that reminds me of when I was working as an escort. I made sure that I did every single thing I possibly could so that I felt ready in that moment. And it's things that maybe men will understand, maybe not, but making sure I had a pedicure and a manicure and I shaved my legs. I had personal grooming done. Made sure that I thought I smelled great, looked nice, I was all fresh because to me those are things that made me feel sexy. And so if you know that you're going to have a sex date on Wednesday night with your husband, well then you know, oh, I can time my waxing so that my waxing is fresh on that Wednesday. I know it might sound crazy to men, but it's like, but it makes it fun for us. We're like, ooh, I'm going to go buy that new pair of panties. I'm going to try that eyeshadow, that lipstick, because it's fun for us to be participate in that beauty ritual.
So
It's just so fun.
I so
Hmm.
agree with you, and I'm assuming. So I'm clearly hearing the message for women listening is somehow build up your energy, you warm up, so you're there. And is there also a message for men there to also groom up?
Yeah, groom up, buddy. Groom up. Yeah. Well, also like I had a playlist I would create, so I would I would have my Eye of the Tiger music. It wasn't Eye of the Tiger that song, but it was like that kind. That's what I called it. It was like my hype music, right? I would have that
Yeah.
music listened to, and I would just have everything. I would just set a scene, and I do that at home too with my husband. Not so much because we live together and it's just the two of us, and so it's sex can be very spontaneous for us, and it still is because he travels a lot. So it's like we have this fresh relationship. It's
This is
fun.
the underrated art of creating separation.
Oh my gosh, because having space is part of female sex drive because
Totally.
it builds mystery for us. Like, because
Yeah.
men are like, oh, I'm not that mysterious. I'm not a sharpshooter, playboy, race car driver. What kind of woman is going to be interested in me? It's like, well, she's interested in you because you're a man. you're a mystery to us because you're men and we don't understand why you do the things you do or what you're going to do or just being in your masculine presence. It's like, ooh, it's mysterious to us and it feels good. That's what women want. That's mystery, is being a man.
Part two of my conversation with Mary is also very juicy. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can be notified when I publish it. In the interim, here is part one. Here is the interview I did with Mary a few months ago. And here are two videos that Mary and I did to help men better understand women. Enjoy.